Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. So today is, we're going to be doing the Astrology and Kabbalah of April 2021, and we're going to get started right now. Okay, so we're going to be, let's see, sharing my screen here. Okay. All right. Okay, let's do the slideshow. And okay, so here we are. It's April 2022, and we're going to do part one, the numerology of April. So I always look first at the numbers that are associated with the month, the year, and the combination of the month and the year. Of course, the monthly vibration is a 4 because April is the 4th month of the year. The universal year vibration, the vibration that we have been and will continue to work with throughout the whole entire year of 2022, is the 6. And then the vibration, the specific special vibration of April 2022 is the 10-1 vibration. Now, the monthly vibration, the vibration of 4 is stability. 4 is 4 square consciousness, the symbol of law, system, and order. It is firmness, security, stability, and conservatism. 4 is the builder who must submit to earthly things where form and substance are the predominant elements. 4 is nature and relates to the earth. The formation of the earth took place on the 4th day in the biblical story of creation. This all coming from the book Numerology and the Divine Triangle by Faith Gervain and Dusty Bunker. So 4 is a building vibration. And so in April, we are endeavoring to build a firm foundation. Universal year vibration. Every month we go over this in a little bit of a different detail. 6 is conscientious. It desires to bring harmony, truth, justice, and a sense of balance to its environment. Love and compassion are uppermost in the mind, and therefore can be an effective teacher, counselor, or healer. 6 desires a close companion, a need for group harmony and service to the community. This is also taken from Numerology and the Divine Triangle by Faith Gervain and Dusty Bunker. And then when we add those two vibrations together, we get the 10-1 vibration. The 10-1 vibration is a vibration of intuition, fortune, luck, and a turn for the better. Don't we need that? What you've been waiting for may now be yours. This is an initiation period in which you may be required to stand alone and make decisions. Events now reveal your understanding of the circumstances of your life, a need to stay centered in your life without getting caught up in the ups and downs of life. This is an opportunity for us to be centered. It's important this month to stay centered because we're going to see a lot of things. We're going to see good things and we're going to see not so good things. And we can't get too elated about the good things or too depressed about the bad things. We need to realize that there's a cyclicity to life. If we correspond these vibrations with the tarot cards that correspond to them, the 4 vibration is the vibration of the Emperor card. This is the card that's associated with the sign of Aries. In April, the Sun, Mercury, Chiron, and Eris are in Aries. Of course, the Sun and Mercury are there. The Sun is in Aries for 30 days. Mercury is in Aries for, I think, about 2.5 weeks. It's moving pretty quickly right now. Chiron has been in Aries since, I want to say 2016, but it might have been 2017. Chiron is in Aries for about 9 years. I think it's 9. And Eris has been in Aries since 1925. So Eris is going to remain in Aries probably for the rest of my life. And I was born with Eris in Aries. There is a new moon in Aries on April 1st. And this is the card, the Emperor card is associated with agency and clear vision. The card ruling our conscious existence, representing reason, which is a function of the conscious mind. So it is important in this month of April that we are reasonable, Universal year vibration 6 is the Lover's card. This is the card of choice, symbolizing the duality of life, male, female, black, white, true, false, positive, negative. These two specialized manifestations of the one life force must become equalized before attaining unity. Also symbolized by the dual nature of humanity, the sacred and the earthly. We do live in a dual existence. And the 10-1 vibration is associated with the Wheel of Fortune card. This is associated with the planet Jupiter. In April, Jupiter is in Pisces and makes a conjunction to Neptune in Pisces. Now, these two planets conjunct about every 13 years, but in the sign of Pisces, the last time that this occurred was 1856. So it's rare if they conjunct in the sign of Pisces. And that's going to happen every 166 years. What's significant about Jupiter conjuncting Neptune and Pisces is that both Jupiter and Neptune are rulers of Pisces. So it's a very powerful combination. Pisces is the sign associated with expansion into infinity. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion, and Neptune is a planet of expansion. So there is this expansion of consciousness that occurs at this time. The only problem is that at times it can be very confusing for people. This is a card of changing circumstance. So we will see circumstances changing. A need to stay centered within the changing circumstances of life, a realization of that what I said previously, the cyclicity of life. So let's see where these numbers fall on the tree of life. So the tree of life, the 4 vibration or the Emperor lies on the path that connects Chokmah, the Sephiroth of wisdom, that's right here, to Tiphereth, the Sephiroth of beauty. And this is the path of the Emperor, called the constituting intelligence, connecting the pillar of the past with the pillar of the present moment. This is the path of clairvoyance, clear seeing. The Emperor knows the substance of form and simultaneously is the substance of form. You know, this is the salt of the earth here, right? The square. On the tree of life, the 6th vibration is found right here, the Lover's card that lies upon the path that connects Baina, the Sephiroth of understanding, or the Sephiroth of the mother, and Tiphereth, the Sephiroth of beauty, or the Sephiroth of the sun. So we have Chokmah, incidentally, is father. So we have through the 4 vibration, father, son, and through the 6th vibration, mother, son. So in a way, this is a trinity, right? This is the Holy Trinity. This is called the separating or disposing intelligence. The path connects the pillar of the future, which is here, with the pillar of the present. The lovers represent the sword that slashes down through the cosmos, separating the whole into discrete forms. This card is associated with the sign of Gemini, and Gemini is the sign in which We name things, we categorize things, we discern things and discriminate between things. The sword distributes gender and polarity through the universe, creating the tension of opposites, the tension of opposites. It is the force that takes the limitless substance of the universe and categorizes it, separates it out and categorizes it. The 10-1 vibration on the tree of life. This 10-1, or the wheel of fortune, lies upon the path that connects Hesed, which is the Sephiroth of mercy, to Netzach, the Sephiroth of victory, called the conciliating intelligence. This path lies completely within the pillar of the past, right here. The wheel of fortune turns. It is the wheel of karma, chance, return, and consciousness. The wheel tells of the endless rotation of night and day, the earth and skies, the seasons, the years, and the rise and fall of humanity through endless cycles of birth, fortune, and death. So each one of these paths, if we look at the tree of life in terms of the 7 chakras, we can see that each level is associated with a certain chakra. And so when we look at the Emperor card, which sits right here, as you can remember, connecting Chokmah to Tiphereth, we are connecting the third eye here to the heart. The Lovers, located here, is actually doing the same thing, connecting the third eye to the heart. So what we see here, how does it feel here? What do we feel here? What can we see here? So it is a alignment between the third eye and the heart chakra. The Wheel of Fortune, which is on this path right here, connects the throat chakra, Vishuddha, with the navel chakra or the solar plexus chakra, which is Manipura, lustrous gem. Vishuddha means, oh, goodness gracious, purification. And Manipura is lustrous gem. The 5th chakra, the throat chakra, is where spirit works. It co-creates with us through vibration. And the 3rd chakra, and so this is the throat chakra is the place of divine will, and the 3rd chakra is the place of personal will, because the 3rd chakra is located in the lower tree. The lower tree is created when a soul incarnates into a dense physical environment, and so it creates these 3 chakras so that it can interact with the environment that it's in. That creation of these 3 chakras actually creates the lower self or the ego self. So this is the part of us that's very conscious of our life here. It's the upper chakras that we're not always conscious of, depending on the person, of course, but this is what we need to climb the tree. So we need to move up the chakras and then move into the higher chakras and ultimately out the crown and back up to oneness with all things, which in fact is what the crown symbolizes, unity consciousness, right? Okay. And these are the chakras. We can just take a look at them. This is the third eye chakra, Aja, which means to perceive or to command. It is associated with the element of light, and it is the right to see. This is clairvoyance. This is your psychic sense. This is your intuition. And we have the heart chakra. The heart chakra is the chakra where the lower self and the higher self meet. It's where the divine feminine and the divine masculine are in balance. We see the 6-pointed star here, The triangle pointing up is the triangle of the masculine. The triangle pointing down is the triangle of the feminine, and we have them in balance in the heart chakra. This is the chakra of harmony through conflict. This is the chakra where we connect with our fifth dimensional reality, or our fifth dimensional consciousness, I should say, because it's a bit of an unreality, but it really is a reality to those who work in that fifth chakra. I mean, in that fifth dimension, excuse me. And if we look at the lovers, it's the same two chakras. So we could say the same thing about this path. And if we look at the chakras activated by the Wheel of Fortune, we see the throat chakra, purification, Vishuddha. This is sound. This is vibration. And Manipura, which is the fire chakra, the fire in the belly. And so these are the chakras activated on the tree of life through the numerology that gets activated with this chart. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is the astrology. And I usually do this in a separate video, but I think I'm going to include today's new moon, and I'm going to include the first 2 days of April here, because this is kind of a short, this has been a short video. So let's take a look. So Friday, April 1st, 2022, which incidentally vibrates to an 11-2. 11-2 is a master number. It is a spiritual light messenger. So we will be getting messages today. And we have the new moon at 12 degrees of Aries. It says 12 degrees of Aries, a triangularly shaped flight of wild geese. And we see we have this picture over here to give you a visual on that. The keynote here is an idealistic reliance upon a mental image of universal order. It says the wild goose is the mystical bird Hamsa of the Hindu tradition. It was the symbol of man's transcendent soul. So this is an example of universal order. Universal order. The ruling planet of Aries, okay, we have the new moon in Aries at 12 degrees. The ruling planet of Aries is Mars. I always like to see what Mars is doing in a chart when anything moves into Aries, but especially when we're dealing with this new moon in Aries. And it says the Sabian symbol for 23 degrees of Aquarius, a big bear sitting down and waving all its paws. It's interesting that the bear is a symbol at this time, right? Because we know that the bear is the symbol of Russia. It says the self-discipline which results from an intelligent development of individual faculties under proper training. It's very difficult for a bear to sit down and wave its paws, right? It's not a natural thing, it's learned. And it's a way in which we develop and have to train ourselves, right? And so we have a symbol of this mental image of universal order, and then, you know, sort of modified or further with this image of the bear, right? Further explained perhaps by the image of the bear. And so this really speaks of really being disciplined in your spiritual practices, and really mastering in a way how to stay poised and yet still be able to handle a lot of things that are happening. So here we have the new moon. Oops, excuse me. Here we have the new moon over here. We have it. This particular new moon is in a conjunction to Chiron. Now, Chiron is an archetype of the wounded healer. In Aries, the wound of Aries is wounds around identity, wounds around how we expend our energy. So as far as identity, How do you define yourself? Who defines you? Can you define yourself? Do you have the right to define yourself? Of course you do. You get to decide who you are. But there are a lot of people who try to tell you who you are. Now, you can agree with them or you can disagree with them, but it's your right to know who you are. The wounds associated with Aries as it pertains to bullying. We see a lot of bullying going on. Of course, we see it in the Ukraine. We saw it 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency. We're seeing it, we see it in schools. We see it on the Oscar stage. There is this might makes right kind of energy that is really what's the word I'm looking for? A distortion of the Aries energy. The energy of Aries is to be born, is to become, is to be. When we get so involved in the I-ness of it and what I want, what I wish, what then we're no longer in the flow of we're not in the flow, because it can become this, as long as I have the biggest stick, or I have the most money, or I have the most clout, or I have the most guns, or the most or I'm the most willing to hurt another person, then I become the most powerful person. And then there's the wounds of narcissism. We see this wound of narcissism with Chiron and Aries. But it can also be, because Aries deals with our identity, it can be somebody who doesn't quite even know who they are, or doesn't even feel the right to be. So there's a lot of different variables around this Chiron and Aries, but the wound is really a wound of feeling wounded just by being who you are. Just by being who you are. So we're all sort of dealing with that. And with the new moon being balsamic to Chiron, there's a couple of, it's almost like we're at the end of this energy of the wounds of now, not to say that we're at the end of it and suddenly it's going to go away and we're not going to have problems, because that's not the way it works. But there's a certain amount of awareness that comes with these energy waves coming in. And so we're still not quite out of the let's say Chiron. What we're going to see with this new moon is we're going to see both sides of the picture. We're going to see the healing of the wound, and we're going to see the expression of the wound. But as with all wounds, if you don't see it, if you don't know it's there, in a way, if there's not a symptom, then you may not be aware that there's a problem. And so we see the problem, and it's going to be up to us to solve the problem. It's going to be us to recognize the problem for what it is. Most people who are narcissistic feel like they're not lovable, they're not loved. Now, it's very difficult to navigate around narcissism. It's one of the most difficult personality disorders to navigate around. So sometimes you just have to cut your losses with narcissists. Sometimes they're in positions of power and it makes it harder. If you are the person who doesn't feel like they personally have any worth, this is a time for you to really move in the direction of your beingness, Come to an understanding of who you are and come to appreciate that. For the most part, I think we are inundated with people who have a certain opinion about us. But that opinion that they have about us is really a reflection of us. And so it's especially true of those people who bother us the most or give us the most grief. They're perhaps telling us who we are or who we should be. That's really us telling us. And so ultimately you have the power through changing your mind about this thing. Remember, Aries is the path of the emperor. It's the path of reason. It's the path of consciousness. It is the path of agency. You have agency. You don't have agency to hurt other people, but you have agency to be who you are. And if you are one of those people who hurts other people, then there is a wound there that you need to explore, and you need to work on healing. And this new moon can help us actually do a lot of that. Now, the ruling planet of Aries, right, is Mars, and we have Mars in Aquarius. As we said, we looked at the Sabian symbol. And the interesting thing about Mars in Aquarius is that it's actually on its way, excuse me, it's actually on its way to a conjunction with Saturn. This is something that happens every 2 years. Mars and Saturn make a conjunction. This is actually happening next week. I believe it's next week. But Mars is square the nodes. Mars is square the nodes. When a planet is square the nodes, and Mars is not the only planet square the nodes in this chart. We have Mars square the nodes, we have Saturn square the nodes, and we also have Venus square the nodes. Mars square the nodes of the moon are our collective evolution. When Mars squares the nodes, we don't know, do we go to the past? Do we go, it's like we're halfway between. It's like we're stuck. Do I go this way? Do I go that way? Do I go this way? Do I go that way? The resolution node for this particular Mars square the nodes, Mars and Aquarius squaring these nodes, is the South node in Scorpio. And so in order for us to move into the future, we must first review the past. When you're dealing with Mars, this is action. So this can also be aggression. So aggression through Scorpio, death, hell on earth, war, pestilence, all sort of Scorpio things, right? Not that that's what Scorpio is all about, but just in this case. So we need to, do we need to relive that? Or do we need to realize what's going on before we can move into that North node in Taurus, which is moving towards stability? We also have Saturn square the nodes here. Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn is the structure of our reality. So we need to, in order to move forward and move into a place where we are moving in the direction of peace and stability, we need to look and see the way our society has been structured to foster this sort of war energy or death energy or Thanos. And then we have Venus square the nodes, which requires us, Venus square the nodes is not really understanding our own value. And so with the South node being the resolution node, how have we been conditioned through relationship, Scorpio, especially controlling relationships and enmeshment and codependency? How has that in the past affected us in a way? Coming to an understanding of that in order to move to a place where we can learn to love and appreciate ourselves. And so there can be a review. There's a lot of reviewing going on at this time about the past and evaluating whether the way it was done in the past is the best way to do it in the future. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's not about moving to staying in the past, but learning from it. On Friday, April 2nd, we also have the Sun make a conjunction to Chiron and Aries. So we have the new moon where the new moon, the sun and the moon, is balsamic to Chiron. And then the same day, a little while later, we have the sun make a conjunction to Chiron. That starts the synodic cycle between Chiron and the sun. It's a year-long synodic cycle, which illuminates the wound and the healing of the wound. The Sabian symbol, this occurs at 13 degrees of Aries, so this is the next degree. An unexploded bomb reveals an unsuccessful social protest. The immature evaluation of the possibility of transforming suddenly the status quo. The symbol pictures the result of a particular attempt to resolve the conflict between two concept feelings of order. Resolution by violence fails, because the ego power at this stage of the process of individuation is far too strong. The state thwarts attempts at popular revolution because these are premature expressions of a consciousness which is not free, but can only react wildly to constraint and to a central ruling power. It is thus a symbol of immature refusal to conform in the name of an idealistic desire for harmony and peace. A negative attempt at reconciling the spiritual ideal and the very earthly reality, denying the validity of the latter. It suggests adolescent frustration. And so what I think that this symbol means really is it's asking us on a certain level to be patient. As much as we would love to see everything resolve itself and everything to be butterflies and rainbows and unicorns, which I would love more than anybody else, there is a process that has to happen here. And we have to realize that not everybody is at the same level of evolution. So everybody is not going to express it in the way that perhaps you would like to see people express things. So we have to be accepting of where people are at through this period and understand that we're not really, quote unquote, out of the woods. But the more that we stay in a place of neutrality and poise, with an understanding that, you know, things take time and evolution is a development and not an event, we can continue to bring light to the situation. And the more poise and more peace we have within ourselves, the more of a chance that we can actually affect peace on the outside. Now on the 2nd, April 2nd, which is a 12-3 vibration, we have Mercury make a conjunction to the sun. This is what we call a superior conjunction of the sun. As we sit on the earth, the sun actually sits between us and Mercury. Mercury is on the other side of the sun. So we can't see Mercury in the sky because it's under the rays of the sun. But in a way, this, even though it's a conjunction, because of where the earth sits and because where Mercury is sitting on the opposite side of the sun during this conjunction, it acts a little bit more like an opposition. Now, astronomically, we cannot have an opposition between the sun and Mercury, okay? But we can have the sun sort of sit between us and Mercury. And so Mercury is sort of invisible to us, but it does sort of, it is as far away as it's going to be for us. Mercury is as far away from us as it can be on the other side of the sun. And so that gives a certain amount of perspective, even though the sun is blinding us through this process. So the symbol for this occurs at 14 degrees. So the interesting thing is the new moon is at 12, the sun conjunct Chiron is at 13, and then we have 14 degrees, we have the sun conjunct Mercury. And it is a serpent coiling near a man and a woman. And the keynote here is identification in bipolar relationships with the impersonal rhythm of natural energies. And so this symbol is that the snake, we have the man and the woman relating, right? And then next to it is this coiled snake. The coiled snake symbolizes the kundalini, the rising of the kundalini, the rising of the energy of life through the chakras so that we can become enlightened. For some people, we relate in that way. We have a relationship that helps spiritually sort of bring us forward, but not everybody is aware of that. So the snake remains coiled. And so this is another realization, perhaps, that everybody is at a different level of awareness here and a different level of spiritual level, right? What the further up the mountain you go, the more you can see, the more you understand, right? If you're in it, it's hard to see it. You have to sort of raise yourself up from it. And so we're all at different stages of this. And so it does require both a lot of effort on our part, but also a lot of acceptance of those things that we don't always necessarily have any control over, which is very much what the 12-3 vibration of that day is symbolic of. So we're going to stop there. And the next week is a very, very busy week. I think I might actually include it on this video, but I will do that when I come back. I will be back shortly. Thank you. No, sorry, guys. Okay. Okay, so I'm back to look at the second week. The second week we're going to call April 3rd to April 9th. So that is a Sunday to a Saturday. So on Monday, April 4th, that's 4/4, 2022, which vibrates to a 14/5, the Temperance card. We have Mars conjunct Saturn at 23 degrees of Aquarius. I mean, if you could think of anything that would bring temperance to Mars, it would probably be Saturn. The Temperance card as an energy means that we need to walk a very straight and narrow path, and that it's very important with this vibration that we do not get caught up in extremes. And so Saturn and Mars together can very easily get caught up in extremes because it is the planet of structure, Saturn, and the planet of aggression, Mars. And so it can be a structuring of a new sort of aggressive front, or it can also be a structuring of a new way of moving forward to bring a more humanitarian perspective, perhaps, and humanitarian actions because of the Aquarius energy. And so with all of these energies, the energy is there. It's up to us to do what we can with it. And so it works for those who are working on what we might consider the light side of things. And it also works for those on the dark side of things. And so it's important for us to apply our light to these situations because light will always dispel the darkness. So this conjunction is a 2-year synodic cycle. Any time Mars connects with any of the other planets, it's a 2-year synodic cycle. And this is Mars actually is getting his marching orders from the boss, of course, Saturn being the boss. What action needs to be taken to build this structure? That's the question we're asking ourselves. Now, the Sabian symbol for 23 degrees of Aquarius, we're going to be seeing this symbol a lot. The 23 degrees of Aquarius is a big bear sitting down, waving all its paws. Of course, we consider this as we realize that we're working with the big bear, right? Russia is often signified by the bear. So it says here, the self-discipline which results from intelligent development of individual faculties under proper training. And Dane Rudger continues, this is from the Sabian Symbol book by Dane Rudger. What constitutes the proper training of children or animals is a complex and much disputed problem. The symbol seems to state simply that powerful life energies can be trained adequately. The implication or extension of the idea being that no training is rarely successful unless it leads to the realization of value and the power of self-discipline. We are constantly faced with situations which, whether we are aware of or not, are in fact training situations. God or the soul is the trainer. Much depends on the attitudes we assume in these situations. This is the third symbol of a sequence. We see in the outcoming of what is suggested in the two preceding ones, character and a warm understanding of what is involved in the process of growth and overcoming of emotional heaviness can be taught. We can learn to discipline our natural impulses and use them for more than personal purpose. This is discipleship in its true sense of the term. Discipleship is another word for discipline. And so this is a time where we need to have a lot of discipline in the way that we move forward. We need to be very aware of what our actions, the consequences of our actions. Saturn is the planet of karma. And so any actions taken at this time are embedded, right? It creates that deep rut that we can fall into, or that can help sort of create the flow in the direction that we want to go in. So this is a pretty profound time. And of course, we've had this relationship of Venus and Mars moving through these signs together, and Mars being the ruler of the South Node at this time, or one of the co-rulers of the South Node at this time. We can, with the South Node, bring up the shadow of a situation, but we have to deal with it in a North Node way, right? And so that would be, how do we create stability? How do we create value? How do we create peace? How do we create what is essential in our lives, right? Okay. On Tuesday the 5th, 2022, we have Venus ingress into Pisces. Venus is in her exaltation in Pisces. So Venus has had a pretty tough ride. She had a retrograde station, a retrograde period in Capricorn. So she was in Capricorn for a long time. Now Venus can function in Capricorn, but it's not the most pleasant place for Venus. But she did have that retrograde period. During that period, she made 3 conjunctions to Pluto, 2 conjunctions to Mars, and a conjunction to Saturn, right? And now we have her finally getting, and the signs that she was in were Capricorn and Aquarius, and those are 2 Saturn-ruled signs. So Venus and Saturn can work together, but it's not a whole lot of fun. And she doesn't have a whole lot of power in those. In both of those situations, Saturn would have more sway. And so now she's in Pisces. Now she can become, or she can be, her exalted self. Compassion, imagination, artistry. There are so many people with Venus and Pisces are so exquisitely artistic and sensitive. They have a beautiful sense of placement. And so this really is a lovely, lovely energy. It doesn't last that long though, because Venus doesn't spend a whole lot of time in a sign. So as Venus moves into Pisces, we have to make the most of it, right? And so we need to connect with that sort of creative, compassionate, loving self. On the same day that Venus moves into Pisces, which is what this chart is here, we can see there's Venus moving into Pisces. This is an Aries ascendant chart. As Venus moves into Pisces, let's see if she's making any aspects. If she's aspected, she's actually aspected to the moon. It's a wide square, but it's there. And I don't see anything else she's aspected to in this chart. Oh, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. Let's see, Venus in Pisces. She would be, well, she's in a semi-sextile here to Pluto, so we won't include that. But at the same time, we have Mars square the nodes. Now here's Mars here at 2259. The nodes here are at 2256. So this is actually going to happen a little later than when Venus moves in, but we can see Mars square the nodes. We can see these dark red lines, right? When Mars squares the nodes, now remember we have Saturn squaring the nodes as well. Mars square the nodes. they are still in that conjunction. So we have Mars and Saturn in this pressure on the nodes of the moon, which requires us to evolve. Whenever the nodes of the moon are involved, there is an evolution. We're at an evolutionary crossroads, and the resolution node again in this situation is the south node. And so we need to review the past and the conditioning of our emotions from the past before we can truly move into a future of stability. This is about facing the shadow. This is about facing the shadow. So we have Mars and Saturn requiring us to face the shadow. We have Venus in Pisces now, bringing that energy of compassion and humanity, and just the most beautiful, beautiful energies that we can actually experience with that Pisces, Venus in Pisces. It's love brought to its highest level of compassion. So we have challenges, but we have a lot of help as well. On Thursday the 7th, which vibrates to 17/8, that's the star card, we have Mercury make a sextile to Saturn. On the 8th, the next day, we have Mercury make a sextile to Mars. It happens right after each other because, right, Mars and Saturn are pretty much still moving together. The Mercury sextile to Saturn at 23 degrees of Aries Aquarius says that the lines of communication are open. There's a lot of curiosity in this aspect. Sextiles are opportunistic. They stimulate they actually stimulate our mind. So our mind is working overtime to get the information, right, that we need. Curiosity, ideas to help build the foundation, Saturn, of a more humanitarian reality, Aquarius. And of course, with Mercury being in Aries, these ideas are new ideas. They're not run of the mill. They're not, Aries always brings in a new sort of new possibility of energy. And then Friday, we have the Mercury sextile Mars. The lines of communication again are open with this. This does occur at 26 of Aries Aquarius, so it's a little bit further along. Curiosity, information to base our actions upon. What can we do as an individual in alignment with what action needs to be taken to foster a sense of personal autonomy while contributing to the group? So how do you work towards group endeavors and yet keep your autonomy and keep your own mind about things? And so this is a time when we really want to communicate. The lines of communication are open. This would actually be a really good time for maybe some peace negotiations in the Ukraine. We're not really sure about that. They're talking about it, but we can't really trust what Russia says, and we can only watch what Russia does. And so we will see what Russia does, and we'll know at that point what we can do. But as far as looking at the outside world, right, but not necessarily feeling that that's the only option. Like, just because Russia does this doesn't mean that that's the direction we have to go in, right? We have to navigate this. And this is really, it's not so much, I mean, it is about, Russia via, versus what, the free world, right? If we want to look at it that way. There are other ways of looking at it. I mean, if you're on the Russian side of things, you might be seeing things differently. So is one right and one's wrong? Well, certainly some of us feel more righteous than maybe we believe the other side deserves to be. So I think if we take our own personal stuff out and just look at the general themes of what's going on here, is that this is really us evolving as a species that says, no, you cannot do this anymore. This is a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. Nobody wants to do this anymore in this way. And, hopefully we have enough clout, and we're not, we have enough collective clout or collective energy to push this over into a new way of solving the problems that we have on this planet, instead of going to blowing things up and hurting people, and then having to go through all that, and then everybody gets guns, and there has to be another way, and there is another way, and that is something that we need to talk about. We need to find a way to live in peace, and not just avoid war. Okay. On Saturday, the 9th, we have the first quarter moon. That is the moon in Cancer, squaring the sun in Aries. This is a crisis in action square, and this is a crisis in action on the seeds planted at that new moon in Aries of April 1st. That, remember, was at 12 degrees of Aries. And here we see the moon right here at 20 degrees of Cancer, squaring the sun. So this is that first quarter square. This is where whatever was seeded and planted on the new moon, this is the time when we see action taken on that seed. We're still not going to necessarily know what that seed is. I mean, we have our intentions. We certainly have the intentions that we put into that new moon. So if you haven't done your new moon intentions yet, put your intentions in. Aries is all about intention. Is it intention for peace? Is it an intention for safety? Is it an intention for you to put your creativity out there? Or is it your intention to find your path in life? Whatever your intention is, it is at this time, at this first quarter square, that you're going to start really taking action. And it's going to feel like you have to. The first quarter square, crisis in action, is generally driven by a sense of fear or a sense of survival. So we will see what manifests at this time. But for you personally, this is the time to take action on your intentions. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop. And I will come back with another video for the next probably 2 weeks in April. April is a very active month, and again, there's going to be big shifts and big changes this month. And if we can get through April, on the other side of it, things are going to look very different. So, all right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you again in about a week to go over the next week of astrology. Take care, everyone. Much love. Namaste.